Coming up, secrets of our marriage and the artist's mind, balancing creative dreams with physical and mental well-being. My husband and I answer listener questions and reveal all.
Hey, I'm Lara, an artist, educator and entrepreneur who's danced through life in Australia, London and California. Now I'm an Aussie in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Juggling roles as an artist, ex-dancer, current actor, author, professional educator and qualified life coach, I'm also a wife and mother of two. Join me on this podcast crafted for creative souls at every level, entrepreneurs, artists, dreamers, and hope-filled humans alike. I'm here to guide you towards a life of love, purpose, adventure, and boundless creativity. As a healthy, wealthy, and wise creative soul, I invite you to hit subscribe for weekly inspiration. Anticipate solo episodes, exclusive interviews with creative luminaries, and insightful discussions with my hottie hubby Andrew, a specialist performance physical therapist, as we delve into the dynamics of relationships and more. Dive into a 360-degree view of making a creative life you'll love. Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist. I've got my hubby here.
Hey, all.
It's so good. Yeah, we live in the South. There you go.
Oh, am I saying that already?
You said y'all.
I said it.
You did. This episode's called Secrets of Our Marriage and the Artist's Mind, which is about balancing creative dreams with physical and mental well-being. Because if you are creative, you know that there is so much, your creativity is affected by your health.
Yeah.
Both mentally
Yep.
and physically.
Absolutely.
And Andrew, of course, specialises in the physical body for performers and artists. So your whole career is around artists.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I treat people, but there's a lot of time with conversation. And I have a lot of focus in my practice as a physical therapist around the connection of mind, body, heart, everything. So
we got some listener questions about our marriage, because we've done other episodes on relationships, because it's a part of the 360-degree life as a creative that you want to build, is to have all of the pieces of that life pie healthy and happy, and to really build your creativity to where you want it to be as an artist through thriving in every area. So anyway, we've got some really cool questions that people have asked us for this episode, and we're just going to tackle those. A lot of them are around whether we get along. We get along, right?
we get along well.
We do, actually. So let's start with balancing creative passions. So the question is, how do you support my creative endeavours in acting, writing and coaching while balancing your career of supporting artists physically? What would you say is your first thought?
Well, I love how you said 360 degree, and that's been a theme in our conversations and things in this talk that's very powerful. So 360 degree for me just means that everything is the whole way around. There's a whole roundedness to us. We'd say in health, holistic, like
that's nice, yeah.
Whole body, like the whole of us, holistic care. But it's just looking at that 360. So what's behind me that I can't see? And what's the other sides of my health that I can't see? What's the other sides of my mind care that I don't see, and that sort of thing? How do I support you practically, or how do I do things? I keep it practical. So if I can practically do everything in my schedule and that my day gives towards, like, taking kids, doing things around the house, doing things and going crazy so that you have time to do things on your list, then I'll do it like crazy for sure. But probably the biggest thing is, I know that how you're wired is that I want you to be able to express, vent, talk, and get some of your feelings out. And I think that's really useful for you. And that's great for your creativity, I think. And so I just feel like I'm your sounding board. I'm your closest friend. So that's what I'm going to step in and do.
That's true. And I like that you said that, because that's a big part of supporting what I do, is I'm talking about what I do as a creative. You're my main sounding board. And your listening means a lot to me. And around this, actually, I just wanted to say that Andrew takes what I do as an artist seriously. and it doesn't always bring in the income that he brings. It comes in like waves. Sometimes I'll suddenly get like a chunk of something and then nothing for
For a
ages.
long time.
But then a chunk of something. So that kind of is the way it works for artists because of the freelance nature. But Andrew takes what I do seriously in the times when I'm quieter and not earning financially, but I'm still working hard on what I do.
But it helps me. The things that we talk about, both privately, but the things that we choose to talk about, and these things, the topics we cover, like inform me every day, actually, and really inform my mindset and that sort of thing. So I'm just like, it's all just wrapped in this wonderful interwoven thing that it's just part of life. It's great.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So we're talking about the secrets of our marriage, but the artist's mind, because that is my mind to the max, and balancing those creative dreams with physical and mental well-being. So on that, so from your experience, this came in, Andrew, what are some of the common mental and physical challenges that you've observed in the creatives and the artists that you are working with? And a lot of them are really elite. They're on Broadway, they're in a film, or they're artists that, you know, are at a certain level of success quite often. And how have you seen those common mental and physical challenges? You know, what's the through line, and how has it impacted their creative work? Because people come to you quite vulnerable because they're in pain, and that tends to open up their mouth. So what are you seeing?
Well, and it's either they're in pain, there's an injury, or they're trying to work out, though, amongst an injury happening, why did this happen? Because I can't afford this for time, or I'm going to let the production down, or I'm going to lose an opportunity or something. So the pressure's high. Yeah. And that doesn't help an injury get better. It's been proven through scientific research. It reduces the ability of your immune system to heal. So that's truth. It's challenges like the pressure, but definitely what's next. Even artists who have booked an awesome West End show or whatever else, they were definitely worried about, in 3 months the contract ends and I do not know if they're going to keep me on. I don't know what they think about me really, and I could be dropped and then I could be unemployed for 2 years. I just don't know. I'm going to keep going with the flow. So partly this is a good thing. The going with the flow thing is a really good thing in life, and so I see with artists, they have to just kind of roll with it and do lots of varied things to get income and whatever else. So it's a good thing I see, but the stress of it does not help their health and whatnot.
Yeah, that's true. And for me, like in our marriage around this point, we're looking at mindset here, and I know that what I've seen from coaching as well, a lot of artists, is that thing where when we don't book work, and I'm coming from a performer's perspective, but also as a writer now, because I've worked on getting my first book out and seen how difficult that is. And I am signed with a literary agent, but all these things feel very like they could go at any minute because of the temperamental nature of both the writing industry and authors, but also performers. And are you going to get dropped? Are you going to? It's not stable, foundation for most of the time for me. And I see quite often that artists take it very, very personally. Yeah. When I think it's not rejection, I think it's supply and demand, and there's too much supply, and not enough demand. It's just that, and we tend to talk about rejection a lot, but I don't think it's rejection. I think it's just there's just too much on offer most of the time, and you get told, well, you have to be outstanding. Well, there's a lot of people that are working that aren't necessarily, they're good enough.
Yes.
Correct.
Right? Correct.
They're just good enough, and they just looked right, or whatever it is, or they wrote the right thing at the right time. Yeah.
And many who have got to a certain place have been lucky, shall we say, and right place, right time. And then they're so worried when, they haven't booked something for a year or two, and they really want to keep it silent, and they don't want people to know. And
there's a shame
around that. But then, they come. It comes better when they realize, I was just right place, right time. It's not just that I'm just so darn good. They are good. There's nothing. You're all wonderfully and beautifully made. Every one of you artists listening to this, but it really coming to that truth that they were there at the right place, right time, and that's more freeing for them to say, okay, I'll just like every other artist, get on with it, get on the horse, on the wagon.
There's a divine timing sometimes. There's an element of luck. There's all sorts of things. I've had in my acting career the driest period of my entire performing career, in that there was COVID in Melbourne, then I moved to the States, and then I wasn't allowed to act because of my visa, so I was only allowed to teach, and so I was a associate professor of acting. And then I hit the first day of the industry strike, the SAG AFTRA strike, and I signed with my first acting agent on the first day of that, and that was a very long strike. And at the time of recording this, the industry is still recovering, and there's other people, and we're dealing with AI, and we're dealing with so many things changing, that what's amazing though is that on the one hand, in that place, because when you're a creative, you have to create. So where my acting hasn't been as flourishing in this last season because of circumstances that not only I'm going through, but the industry as a whole, I've actually flourished into other areas of creativity. I've qualified as a life coach, rather than just mentor. I'm actually qualified. And then I've also sewn myself into my own business. I've sewn myself into writing my first book, and that creative flow's gone into other places. But I remember a time when I was just fixed and it has to come from this, and that didn't serve me well. And you remember those times. So that wasn't good for mental health or marriage, really. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense that going through auditions, the pressure on yourself to say, did I book it, or did I get the outcome? Did I win, or whatever else? And that looped into success or whatever else. But your success is better seen when it's just, did I do the best job I could in this moment, with this audition, with this moment of acting, with this exercise I'm doing, or in this job that I have right now, and that's a better measure of success, because it's not linked into the outcome.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So I had a listener question about when we face conflicts, especially around our different career paths, mine in the arts and yours in artists' healthcare. How do we find common ground and maintain harmony? And I would say that there's a lot of conflicts in terms of, like tomorrow, for example, I've got coaching clients, artists that I'm coaching, and Andrew's working the full day on a movie set at Trilla Studios here in Atlanta. And that kind of came up last minute, and I was like, I've got clients and we've got kids, and it can be difficult. There's a lot of juggle, and there's no real easy answer here.
No, I think what's helped is good communication and finding some system of communication. What really helps you is that we share a calendar, and that we're putting both of ourselves onto that calendar with events that are happening, and then it straight away brings up, when we forward plan, even 3 days in advance or 2 weeks, that we're kind of like, oh, there's a clash. We need to talk about that. And so then we can,
Yeah, actually our shared calendar is really important, because I feel like managing a home is like managing a business, but it's not a business. So it's not the best way. But I mean, you're running accounts and money and expenses and income and, what's going in, what's going out. We've got kids. There's lots of pieces of making our life not fall apart. And with so many people getting divorced, it does show you that it is not easy. And if you're going through conflict, then that's actually very normal. But yeah, as much as we can, we share a calendar, we talk about things. I get mad sometimes. I'm okay with saying that, because like tomorrow, it's like, that's so last minute. I already booked this in, and we've got the kids, and who's going to look after them? There's all of that. But then I calm down and accept it, because sometimes it's just challenging and it's tricky. But we never let that kind of build up and go day after day and cause like, there's a great, beautiful verse I love to share, that don't let the foxes ruin the vineyard. We have a vineyard. Our marriage is a vineyard, and we don't want to let like thousands of foxes in to destroy it. Like one comes in, we deal with it, it goes out. But I think where it gets difficult is when you've got a stubborn person who won't hear you. And I think a big part of the success of our marriage is the feeling of being known, seen and heard. And at the very least, if you can't, like tomorrow we can't find a resolve, we just, both of us have to do our separate things. And there was no easy solution, but Andrew hearing me and seeing me and saying, I know what you do is important, and vice versa, really helps. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice that I could give around that.
That's good, honey. And I do see what you do is so important. And there's not an easy answer all the time. But it's also the thing of like, well, physically saying to them, literally, that's really important. I see you come alive when you do this. So what can I do to help you achieve that? Or the writing journey has been not just plain sailing, right?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of sense of times
absolutely.
when it seems like I haven't heard from this person, this
Yeah,
agent. And
I haven't heard. And what's
there's
going
obvious
on? Am I
self-doubt.
dumped? Yeah.
So I just go, if I was in your place, I would have a lot more self-doubt than you. And so it's just to be like, oh, but honey, push into it. Like, I think it's really good. And I would give her a little bit of like self-belief, a little bit of, praise and that sort of thing. And then it just, she goes on and continues. So I've got that place because I'm husband.
Yeah. And the next question is very closely linked to the one we've just answered. So it was, how have your individual career paths, yours in treating artists, mine in creative arts and coaching, shaped our relationship, and how do we ensure that we continue to grow together? And it's funny because our career paths started quite differently. I mean, Andrew was freshly out of physiotherapy in Australia, and I was a dancer at the time, and we were living in a place with not a lot of artistic opportunities. But through our marriage, which is, I mean, we've been together 20 years, but married 18 at the time of recording, and we've really grown together. We've done a lot of projects together. I really feel in a way that we're in the same industry because you're working with artists, even though you're in healthcare. And I feel like we've really, we just got back from Finland where we were leading for Creative Arts Europe together, and Arts and Action Week there. And there's a lot of things that we step up and do together, and there's a real partnership around creativity and an appreciation of art. Now, I know not everybody has that, but what I think is important for those that don't is that there's an appreciation of what each other do. And again, feeling seen, heard and known in what you're doing and appreciated in what you're doing. And not everything's as interesting as creativity in the arts. I'm aware of that. Some of us will be like, well, my husband's job is so boring or whatever. And I understand that, but it's important still to let that person feel seen, heard and known.
I think an important thing in that field of like what top 3 things can we balance a healthy marriage. Say if your spouse is, you're the artist, the spouse has kind of got a 9 to 5 more IT thing, maybe it's a bit more of a different field. Just remember that you bring spice to their life.
Yeah.
And that they married you for a bit of that reason, but that if for some reason that was sort of taken out, or your artistic flow wasn't as present or whatever else, like that steps out of them, even though they kind of want to tell you how you got to be practical, you got to be, all these things. You balance each other out. So know the power of that. And for those who are a bit more in a staid type sort of job, I think just keep the industry for an artist is topsy-turvy, and it does not get there and support every artist and say, you're awesome, come on, bring everything you do, you're just so good at what you do. Like, it's cutthroat. And it's not for the praise, So the best thing a spouse can do is praise, is speak identity, speak life into your spouse, and be that voice that there's really no other voice in the industry, and be
that voice of support and encouragement for each other, and that's important. It goes both ways. Another question that's come in is, as someone who works closely with artists, how do you approach offering emotional support to me when I'm feeling creatively blocked or overwhelmed, whether in acting, writing or coaching? And I think this is a great question. for Andrew to answer, like, how do you support me when I've had those seasons? And I'm not in one right now, but I remember in London having a season of feeling completely overwhelmed with my career in musical theatre at the time. And yeah, I just like felt like I couldn't get out of bed. I was so low after a series of very heavy rejections.
Yeah, that was a heavy season, and there will be seasons, up and down through our lives. And so I was focused on listening and being a support in that way. But it challenged me as a guy in marriage so much because I want to fix it. Let's just be honest. I wanted to all day long, and all my life. I get a problem and I want to fix it. So I had to stop myself and say, okay, I need to just sit with you with this. I see that the way of explaining it is I want to sit in the well with you. That we're stuck in a well, and I'm going to sit here with you in the well and just be with you in it, and physically tell you we're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. We're going to get through this together. But definitely at times where it was a season of being, really hit by the industry, I just said sometimes, let's get up and do something active. Let's do some exercise,
Yeah.
Let's get, those healthy hormones running through our bodies. So there was a sense of like, let's go, hun, for a little bit. But like that, I could see that was supportive. So
yeah, there was lots of things. And what I really look back and appreciate, and I think we need as artists when we're going through a bit of a downtime or a stagnation resulting after a period of just things not working out. I was going for big things at the time, really big things. So those big goals you go for is a long way to fall down when you emotionally come down the other side. And I'd say that's the same for writing, is that I'm going for big goals, big things, brave things.
You've always done big things.
I've always done big things, encouraged. So now I'm dealing as a life coach and creativity coach with the mental health and the mind of the artist, and Andrew's dealing with the physical body. So let's chat about this question. What are some of the common pitfalls that we've noticed artists fall into regarding their physical and mental health, and how do we help overcome these challenges?
Well, some of the pitfalls are that they stop looking after themselves. So they don't give enough me time. And that's really hard because they've got to often hustle and do extra jobs and do other things and do a lot of other things with their life. I see it like they've got 5 fingers and each one is in a different pie. So they kind of have to have different projects and streams of income and ideas kind of going on all at the same time to balance out both pay the bills, pay the rent, and all those things. So there's a lot of pressure. I get it. But the me time goes. And so it's constantly thinking how do I balance me time, things for my health that I'm going to do, things for my mental health, things for my gut health, all the things, and how does it balance out together?
Yeah, that's really good. I think mentally there's a sense, springing off what Andrew said, that artists and anybody really, human beings, let themselves go mentally, get lazy mentally, or maybe they never knew how to work the brain and actually do a brain workout. And that's a lot of the reason I created the Creative Purpose Journal, is that it's a complete mind workout, in that you're every day saying, what's my creative goal? Can I just hook back to that? What am I supposed to be doing? Am I doing something towards it? What's the lies I'm believing? How do I replace these lies? How do I, take those tiny steps every day to do the mental work? And it is the work that we need to do in the brain, just as the way we look after our outer body. So I'd say that when a client comes to me, they're quite often stuck creatively. They might be resenting their creative gift in whatever medium that is for them. They might have huge amounts of things that they are doing, but they haven't had any success with where those things go. For example, this is nobody in particular, I have confidentiality with my clients, but there might be a huge pile of art, for example, that's been painted and it's sat in a room and it's never had an exhibition, or they've never tried to get it out into the world or show it even online.
The sort of storehouse mindset.
It's sort of, it's that stagnation and that fear. So there's things like fear that are blocking, and just that laziness of not doing the mental work because they don't know how. So, hats off to you if you do know how, you're not stuck, you're moving forward. But there's a lot of people that just have never been taught how to move forward, and that's why creativity and life coaching is something that I saw as a need. That's why I went into it.
Two things practically they do, and that people find they get problems in the body when there's a big change in physical loading. So this is just straight to physical therapy sort of world. Sorry, but it's just if you've got a big change in physical loading, and artists don't realize it sometimes, but they just don't realize, this show stopped, and alongside it, my whole lifestyle was wrapped around that, and it was all this physical training, or I could do the gym, and now I've stopped the gym, and I've done this other hustle job. It's a different time of the day, and I can't kind of fit that in. So now I'm not exercising as much. It's all changed in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and then boom, I'm in pain. Okay. That makes sense. But they don't realize, because you're just getting through and you're hustling and you're working the other things and other pies, other fingers and other pies. So big changes in loading for sure. And the other one is just that, remember, at college, you would have been doing a lot of the skill or the art that you trained in. And be it a dancer, you were dancing a lot. Being musical theatre, the same. Acting, you're doing a lot of physical things and acting work. And then you go and get a job, but you finish college and it changes. So it can't be probably 6 hours a day, but it's just something closer to that. If it would be your mentor in the dance world, Gillian Lynn, who created and choreographed Cats, she was, until her later days, was really encouraging every dancer to say, get to as much maintenance as you can, and her benchmark was 2 hours a day. So if it's not that, go for it. And she was all her life.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, so work the mind, work the body. Here's another question that came in. How do we maintain work-life balance, especially with my career spanning acting, writing and coaching, and your focus on treating artists? Andrew's flying around the country, around America, Broadway here, Broadway there. How do we have a work-life balance, and how do we ensure our relationship remains a priority?
Well, you're better at this than me. I'm definitely a go with the flow and love to put out fires type sort of personality. But it is much better when we both agree and make time for leisure in our life.
Yeah, that's true.
Because Lara is like the queen for making plans, doing big things and doing big projects.
Yeah.
But she drives it much more than me, so she's better. But we've agreed we need to do that more, and it physically puts in our diary and our week just something that we can say, you and I are important, our family's important, stopping is important. So
just an example of this is we have travelled the world, and not necessarily seen the world, doing a lot of arts projects and arts shows and events. And we just went to Finland, which we do annually and have done for over a decade. And we were there to do a very intensive arts week and to lead that for Creative Arts Europe. And this year, for the first time in a decade, we were like, let's have an intentional break right before, and at the time of recording, I've been putting some of those images on my social media and on Instagram and other places. But it was a very intentional 1 week holiday that we just sauna and lake like the Finns do, just absolutely beautiful, to prioritize rest and to appreciate rest. I think another really big thing is that we do a lot of little check-ins and we talk on the phone like all the time. Sometimes we're so busy, but Andrew will be driving somewhere and we're chatting, or I'm driving somewhere and we're chatting, and we're just constantly chatting. Little check-ins numerous times a day, not just calls, but it might be a text or just communicate, I think.
Yeah, and it is really useful to say to each other verbally, we're on the same page. What can we do to achieve this, or just to check in that way,
Yeah, and I remember years ago I was going to a psychologist, and she told me like those little check-ins are actually intimacy. They're a form of intimacy because it's not just, I'm going here to get milk or could you pick up some bread on the way home. It's not that. It's just that emotional intimacy. Like the text can be emotional, they can be anything, they can be flirty, they can be, but there's a constant open line of communication, and we're not blocked from each other or we don't give each other the silent treatment for days on end.
I guess I saw it like this, like bigger chats or things that might affect us more. I thought like, oh, this is going to be 10 minutes or this is going to be a long time, and they could, chats often go that long, but longer. But check-ins are more like, oh, this happened, we got this letter, and this means this, and I'm overwhelmed about that, but just for now, just let's process that together. And then like, oh, I've really got to go, but let's talk later. Great. And so we deal with it together rather than storing it up all day. And should we talk about that tonight? Oh, I don't want to upset you. Any of that. It's just like, let's just
a great metaphor for marriage is it's a seesaw, and like you can't have one person doing all the work while the other person's at the bottom of the seesaw, and the other person's that's doing the work's up in the air all the time. It's got to be this, you're going to have seasons, of course, where that happens, but it's when it's this long-term pattern of one person is emotionally doing the work or physically or whatever it is, and the other person's sort of that's kind of going more into the codependency space. But being able to carry your own weight and have this equal partnership and this seesaw where you're emotionally healthy and you're moving forward. I think what's crazy is marriage is a very long-term, very serious, important thing that you do in your life, and very few people do any training in it. And I think the ongoing work of training, but not about just as a couple doing your own emotional work, will actually give your marriage and your relationship or your future relationships so much more beauty. So it's investing the time because it deserves the time. And I started that on my own, and I own that, and that's the seesaw. It's like it can't all be let's go together in the crisis mode. It's let's own our own walk. So I go to my own groups, Andrew goes to his own groups, and we have our own friendships outside.
And podcasts that help us individually,
yeah,
but things
that's
help
right.
us together, and
Yeah. Okay, so going back to the title of the episode, Secrets of Our Marriage and the Artist's Mind, Balancing Creative Dreams with Physical and Mental Well-Being. Another question came in that burnout is a significant issue for many artists, and based on our experience, what are some strategies that we can use to prevent burnout and sustain creativity long-term? I've been through burnout a few times actually, and the most recent one, I'd actually finished directing a production. I loved my job at the time. I loved directing. I loved all of the performers and the artists and my students. But I remember just one day going in to the rehearsal room and feeling like different. It was just so sudden. It was like all of a sudden my joy was gone, my energy was gone, and I felt like I can't do this anymore. And I didn't necessarily know what it was, but it was burnout. It was that thing where the normal tasks that I normally love that bring me joy, suddenly the joy was gone, and it felt like I can barely get through this. And I realized, as directors, production freelancers, like if you're doing an exhibition, for example, or you're doing a book tour or whatever medium it is, we put this massive load out for this short period of time. We're sprinters. And life is a marathon for an artist, but we're sprinters in that we run on adrenaline and caffeine or whatever it is for you, sugar. We run on that adrenaline for a long time, but that adrenaline can't sustain us forever. And so to prevent that burnout, you really need to look at, again, that mental work daily, that physical work daily. And self-care's become a bit cheesy, like mani-pedi, let's go and do, but we're talking about a deep self-care, like a soul self-care.
Yeah, I think burnout shows you that, the input isn't meeting the output,
Yeah, that's true.
As a physical therapist, and, I'll see people somewhat intermittently, but sometimes repetitively over years, so you get to know them, their body a little bit, and the patterns of problems and that sort of thing. So if you can see that they don't react well in their body, or a little thing flares up their body, it's like what's going on? Like, this shouldn't affect you so much, or this wasn't like you before. And that's a sensitive thing to bring up, but often I can see the physical cues, they're there. But they're usually saying to me when they're sharing how life's going right now, and they're just like, oh, it's just so much, and this, and I can see the signs of like, we're sounding like it's all a bit much at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, so like just thrust into self-care, but we can see it in each other. I think there was a season where I was having to study a lot outside of working, and all that, and we both could see with each other, we were like, this has just been too much. This has been too much for too long, right?
Yeah,
and
we're soul tired.
I could get like short and sharp, and quickly angry, and I'm like, oh, I need a moment. And Lara would say like, do you need a moment?
Yeah, in the last 3 years for us setting up life in America, we were both feeling it's different sort of burnout. I think there's, the complete body burnout, but physical burnout, as Andrew's talked about, emotional burnout, but we were soul tired. Mm-hmm. Like there was that kind of soul burnout where your mind, your will, your emotions is just done. And in that place, it can be very hard to be creative. I actually think that is the ultimate writer's block. When people say creative block, I think it's more about our emotional world and what's going on in our life. Hence why I really believe in the 360-degree view of being an artist and a creative, that it's not just art, it's everything, because each thing affects everything else. But the important thing to know is that whenever you go through a hard season in life, that it too shall pass. And I think as long as you're playing team and supporting each other, and some days, more than others, depending on who's under the most pressure, or just that cup of tea, or that kind word, or that is being seen, heard, known, sometimes held, if you've got access to that. Those things the human's condition really needs. We need as human beings. And I think we underestimate how important connection is, because a lot of us, we're so connected across the world, but we are lonely in our soul. There's a soul loneliness. And in those times of burnout, we really need somebody that sees us, and it can be a good friend. It can be, if you get along with your parents, it doesn't have to be necessarily a romantic relationship, but we're sharing about that a bit in this episode. So yeah, we're that for each other.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So another final question from your perspective as an artist, specialist, physical therapist. What are some ways artists can optimize their physical health to enhance their creative performance and longevity in their careers? And Lara, how can artists really optimize their mind? And I think we've touched on this a little bit. And we're talking about in the context of marriage, but of course everything affects everything else, as I keep saying. So yeah, Andrew, what do you think? How can we answer this one about optimizing physical health to enhance our creativity and artist career?
I could talk for hours, really, literally. I'm going around different companies over the next 6 months to do just that. But lots of things. I would say overarchingly, if you can take away one thing, physically, mentally, in your body, the things in all sides of your health, your approach has to be all or nothing. Go for it. If you lose the determination or the grit of like, oh, this injury happens, or I've got this pain that won't go away, no one can solve it. If you don't have this deeper, like do some soul work towards this, like I'm actually like a fighter inside. If you lose that, then things just fight you. Things just don't go well. Your health doesn't sort of build. If you don't have this fight of like, oh, this therapist didn't help me, so find another one. Like search, like grill the people you're seeing. The doctors are often medical doctors, no harsh word here, but they often don't say a lot and educate a lot. When you're in sessions with them, they're often pressed for time. There's lots of reasons, but in the end, ask them, pin them down. You've got their time, you're paying for them, so pin them down, ask all the questions you want, write your questions down, get determined. So if things are happening and you don't know the diagnosis and it's all flaky, like ring them up. It's their job to give it to you, and pin them down for it. Search for another practitioner, search for ask advice with people, and keep fighting for the things of your health. Try and look to your gut health and things that your diet and what's happening through there. If your body's not healing quickly, look and search and find. So gut wise, like, you're going to have to change things gradually, one thing at a time, and probably 1 week or two at a time. But research and see what's going to work better for my gut health here. Am I eating the best I can to make my injury go better, or to make my whole lifestyle, if I want to build strength and muscle tone or something, like, are you doing everything you can for it? And we can find a lot out online these days for that. So just determination to go for it and do everything you can for it. I'm the reminder as a physical therapist, do your exercises, but like, are you investing when you're injured in your body getting better? So there's a lot on, and you got to fit in a lot of time, but like, are you a fighter? Are you going to spend 10 minutes or whatever else it is a few times a day, and are you going to just sort it? And then once it's sorted, you're better and you're moving on and you're doing other things. So it would be the grit.
Yeah, that's really good. And for me, for the mind, in answering that question, optimizing your creative and artist performance, and we're not just talking to performers, but as in your ability to perform at your best, I would say take responsibility for your art, own it, it's yours, and nobody else is going to do it for you. You're the one who needs to get up and make a choice. Do the work. And if you can't do the work, emotionally I'm talking about, and in the mind, in replacing thoughts that are not helping, finding those blocks that are holding you back, then get the help, seek help. I have some slots free on my creativity and life coaching calendar at the moment. It's a great time to have coaching with me. But wherever you are, there's help available. Make sure you go and you find it, because doing it on our own can be really, really hard. And all of us have things going on in our subconscious that we're just not aware of, no matter how smart and intelligent we are, how emotionally aware we are. You would be surprised what gets locked up in there.
You're very good at what you do as well.
Thank you.
But it's very much what Lara does is help you explore things within your subconscious, things in your head, help to pour out things. You'll probably notice saying things that you didn't notice, and realizing things and getting revelation about things that you never would have thought. And so it's taking you through a journey.
Yeah, and I would say, part of the success of our relationship is that I do own my own walk, my own journey. You own yours, but together we also own our relationship. So there's ownership, and that's really important, and taking responsibility. And I would say too that keep training in your creativity and your art and your medium, even when it's hard, even when it's scary. I've put myself in the room with scary people that, in terms of they're intimidating scary, like they're excellent at what they do, but I put myself there because that's how you get to the next level. Your creativity, it's a flow. It's like a river, and some days that current is weak. Some days that current is strong, but it's always there. It's always flowing, even if it's a trickle, because that's your birthright. That's what you've been born with. So don't fret. Just keep creating and believe in your ideas and believe in yourself as an artist, and encourage other artists and work on your creativity habits, because one tiny action step, as I said in the Creative Purpose Journal, tracking that one tiny action step each day that hooks back to your overall goal creates momentum in your life. Momentum comes from being amongst it, which means putting yourself even one baby step into your artistry for that day. For example, it might be, if you're a writer, getting up and going, I'm going to write 5 words and then see what happens. Or a dancer that's feeling like, I don't want to train. It's like, I'm going to do 5 pliés and then see what happens. Or an actor, I am going to type a Google search for a monologue because I loved that character I saw last night, and I'm going to try that scene, even if it's only one sentence of it. But those tiny little things of putting yourself amongst it will create the momentum in your life. As an artist, you would be surprised.
That's gold. Just going to take a second. That is gold. Like, so many points you just said. So self-belief, like almost make self-declarations, like believe in yourself and speak over yourself and take yourself to that place. Serve others or help others or sow into others, and it kind of builds you up. Like it's a great, amazing thing you do. And then the definitely the workable point you just said, if you're injured and you can't do something with your foot or something, like can you do floor bar as a dancer? Yes. Can you work on your core? Can you work on something else? So it's like the grit I'm talking about. Now it sounds like I've talked and said, come on, go for it, go. But some of that can be a bit of self-compassion. Sometimes that we can get too lost in that, like, it's hard. So you have enough self-compassion, but let it drive us to say, okay, come on, like we can do just this next thing in front of us.
Yeah, just that tiny next step. And I've got friends that are like, I give myself 3 days after a really big rejection or a big thing or something's finished, and
that's good.
And then I pick myself up and I keep going. It's fine to allow yourself those seasons and those moments to be still. Still's different to stagnant, though. The people that I can't help, the people that can't help themselves, and the people that really are not right for moving forward are people that don't see that they're stuck, that don't own that they're stuck and think nothing can be done. If that's what you're thinking, nothing can be done, check in with yourself. Is it true? Because if one tiny thing can be done in your creativity, your relationship, whatever it is, your physical well-being and your mental well-being can move forward one tiny step. Yeah.
Health, mind, body, like your gut health, things in your body, mind, heart, soul, it's all intermelded and interconnected.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
like an interconnected mess, I call it, but that's not like awful mess. It's just that it is so interwoven. But science, if you go back to it, like a very Greek mindset thinking is about boxing things and saying this stuff helps mind, this stuff helps body. But it's so intermelded, and it was made that way. And I see it that way. Lara sees it that way. It's just so all intermelded together. So as you're rehabbing your body, it's like that your mind needs some work as well. And, there's this intermeldedness that is life. So just be open to that.
Yeah, that's right. Always just be open to the change and the ebbs and flows of that creative river we were talking about. Right, friends, we've hit the end of this episode. If you're still listening at this point and you haven't subscribed on the platform you're on, hit subscribe now. We'd love it if you leave a review. It helps us go up in the algorithm. Head to larabiancapilcher.com if you haven't for a while. There's lots of articles to support your creative growth. There is the podcast. There is coaching. There is the Creative Purpose Journal, all things designed to help you build a life of love, purpose, adventure, and boundless creativity. And as always, we are with you on the journey, friends. Phew, today's masterclass is done. I love reaching back and saying, I've done this, and helping you learn the easy way. If you want more, head to larabiancapilcher.com for show notes, links, freebies, my blog, coaching and courses, and you can also head to my socials, Lara Bianca Pilcher on Instagram and Facebook. I'm also on Twitter and Pinterest. Thanks again for listening. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That would mean the world to me. And of course, keep on living the healthy, wealthy, wise artist living towards your dream life. Bye, friends. P.S. Shout out to my hottie hubby, Andrew Pilcher, who does all the editing on this podcast.